Today we got amazing Jack Daly with us. Everybody loves Jack. Jack is the sales guy. I've got a copy of your book here, Hyper Sales Growth. He's also an author of other books as well. He's an expert in the world of sales, sales coaching, sales management, known for delivering explosive, high-energy keynotes and workshops. If you've seen Jack in person, you know that explosive, high energy is exactly what he is, and I appreciate that about him. 30 years of field-proven experience, which he's going to share with us today. As a CEO entrepreneur, he's built 6 companies in national firms, 2 of which he sold to Wall Street firms. So he has tons of experience to bring to the table. The topic for today is, while the world continues to grapple with the pandemic, the business of sales should continue on. So we want to talk about how, obviously, in Jack, obviously a lot of people are in defense mode. Like we're still hunkering down and making decisions to sustain ourselves. And at the same time, we have to begin moving into offense mode. And to do that in a manner with sensitivity, given the current events, is highly, highly important. So Jack's been a long-time friend of mine. I've known Jack for many years. He's been very influential in my personal life. A lot of the things that I accomplish today are because of methods and methodologies that I learned from Jack. So I'm very appreciative of our friendship over that time period, and I'm very appreciative of you being here today to share with this group kind of insights. And interestingly, we want to also talk about your perspectives on the way things are going today. So Jack, I'm going to hand it over to you. And real quick, Q&A is open, so we want to grab questions throughout. So make sure you're submitting any questions that you have, and I'll just jump in and get those to Jack. You can also chat with anyone in here if you have information to share. Make sure you're in the chat and sharing away. So we're up over 300 and still climbing, Jack.
Okay, Andy, thanks for the nice remarks. I got to tell you, to the entire listening audience, stay in tune with what Petra and Andy and his team are doing at these critical times. These guys are filling what would potentially be a void with things that they're trying to do to help us all out in our marketplaces, the most difficult marketplace that any of us have ever experienced. And I'm probably the oldest guy of the 300 or 400 or 500 that we've got plugged in here for the webinar. So let me start off with stating the obvious. And the obvious to me is I don't have all the answers. And if you plugged in here and thought he's a Jack Daly sales expert, has got the answers, I don't have all the answers, but I do have some suggestions. And if you hang in here, you're gonna walk away here, I think, with a better head case and with some definitive actions with which to take. So if we can move to the next slide, I want to talk to you about what do I know. And so the state of business out there right now is some businesses will not make it, period. And we need to understand that. We need to digest it. We need to digest it from an ownership standpoint. We need to digest it from a CEO standpoint. We need to digest that from the standpoint of selling. And so when we look out into the marketplace, just understand, just given the events that have taken place so far in the marketplace, there are businesses that are shuttered and will not be coming back. Understand that. And there will be more to come, and understand that. That doesn't mean that we give up hope. That doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities, but it is a reflection of the marketplace. We can't change that marketplace, but we can understand that marketplace. And when we understand the marketplace, that then should set the table for the actions that we take in what I'm going to call a selling mode. Now, the second thing that I know is personal hardships. They're going to be comprehensive, and they're going to be numerous. There's going to be a lot of it. And it's going to be difficult for all of us, not just the people that are personally inflicted with hardships, but for us on the sidelines, us as neighbors, us as friends, us as family, us as coworkers. All of that is going to be stressful, and it's real. We need to realize it. We need to understand it. And we also then need to digest it and say, given all of that, what are my choices? And the choices are very, very simple for me. You can go down in attitude, or you can deal with the reality and then take the required actions in order to have some impact positively in the marketplace. And the positivity in the marketplace will then bounce back and have a positivity within ourselves. Now, the third item there is emotions are heightened, and anxiety in the marketplace will be rampant. What I know are those three things. And there's no magic wand. And that's the world as we know it right now. Let's take a look at the next slide. And that is not what I know, but what I think. And what I think, and by the way, Andy, usually people are coming to my sessions and getting inspired and motivated, so to speak, and jacked up. I'm not starting off very, very kindly here, but I promise to get better as we go along. But we've got to deal with reality as it is. What do I think? We're hearing a lot of noise out in the marketplace about how long it's going to be. 2 weeks. People are talking about, if we stay in our safe distances for a couple weeks, and we're a week into that, by then we should start to see some release. The president is talking about getting us back up and running sooner rather than later. Personal opinion. And remember, I don't have all the answers. I think it's going to go longer than most people are currently believing. And I think an awful lot of people in the marketplace are hanging their hat on, hey, we just need to get through this next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I think we need to get our mindset prepared for a longer journey than that, a tougher journey than that. And again, once you get your mind wrapped around what I'll perceive as being this dark reality, we then can take that dark reality and sit down and say, okay, given that, what can I do about it? So let's go to the next slide, which is where I think there's some hope and there's some promise. And that is, what do we do? Well, for many of you that are tuning in, you probably know of me. You may have heard me in some capacity somewhere. And I'm a health guy. 95 marathons and 15 Ironmans, and I'm an exercise maniac, and I track and I measure it, and it's on my website and all of that. But here's what I would tell you. If you ever need to stay on top of your health and your fitness, now is the time to do it. Not just combating the coronavirus, but being able to withstand all of what I just talked about earlier in terms of this dark marketplace we're operating in. And so I just know that when I am on top of my fitness, when I am on top of my health, I can work longer hours, I can work smarter hours, and I can take stress way better when I'm taking care of myself. And so I've got this magic number that I use in my presentations, 168. We all start the same week with 168 hours. Don't fall into the trap of saying, with everything else that's going on, I can't find the time to budget in an hour of exercise. Put that hour into your diary. Make it a mandatory. Make it a highest of high priorities. And I want to go one other step further on the health and fitness, Andy, and that is not only yourself, but your loved ones, the people that are around you, your coworkers, your colleagues. Get in your safe distance, but quote unquote together, and gut check each other. Prioritize taking care of yourself. Imagine if we had our leaders of our country and the leaders of the world not budgeting that time. But when you go and you start to do research on the leaders that we're seeing out there, so many of them are prioritizing taking care of themselves from a health and fitness standpoint. So
Jack,
that's first and foremost.
Jack,
Yeah.
I saw an article today, Dr. Fauci, and how he's like That guy's everywhere. If I see anybody on the news more than, I mean, he is doing so much right now. And every single day he's out doing his run.
Yeah, and he's 79 years old.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, we time and again, and yet the country, every time he speaks, I feel like the country takes a deep breath and says, "Ah, man, he's helping me. He's
That's
helping me work through this turmoil." Right? We need to be that helpful person in our local markets with our local people, and just find a way to make it happen. And if you're not Facebook friending me, Facebook friend me, and watch, because I regularly post all of my craziness and antics on the health side. I'm a guy that on December 5, I slipped on a stair and severed my quad tendon. That's a really serious accident. I was in a brace for 3 months. I was surgery on December 20th. But this past weekend, Andy, I on Saturday, I put down 10 miles, 2 5-mile walks each, with a little bit of jogging in there. And then in the evening, I knocked out another 5-mile walk. And I did that 2 consecutive days. So on Saturday, I logged 25,000 steps. On Sunday, I logged 25,000 steps. And then Monday hit yesterday. And, you know, I'm back to work and only put down 15,000. And this is a guy that doesn't have a full leg at the moment. He's still in therapy, physical therapy, getting the use of my leg back. But I know when I'm out there, I come back and I'm energized and I'm better prepared for the bad news, the tough news. I'm working with my coach clients, all of those types of things, my own business, my friends' businesses, my kids' businesses, all of that. I am a better resource for them when I prioritize this health and fitness. So
and that's something that's within your control. It's part of this the next one, which is controllables. You can control.
Yeah, so let's go there. That's where the focus needs to be. Man, if you were to tune in all day to TV and let whatever channel you're looking at take you down the rabbit hole, you'll never get back. We have to remember that the news long ago stopped being news. They are purveyors in bad times. They don't talk about, we put all the airplanes up in the air and they all landed safely. The only day that you hear about an airplane typically is when one crashes. It's all about sensationalism. I remember when the earthquake took place in San Francisco and the news had reported it as if San Francisco was all burning down. I had to be there the following week for business. It was one block. They just kept showing it from different angles. And a portion of the bridge collapsed. And so be careful about what you're filtering in. And the focus precedes success. If I can give you some guidance, it's those 3 words. If you're looking for success, focus is the lead. Focus on that which you have control over. Don't get consumed with the things that are outside of your control, and just bear down on that. So let's talk about C, and that's a daily plan. I work with my clients typically, and we're talking about vision, and we're talking about long-term, and what do we want the company to be in the future, and what is the painted picture, and what does it look like 3 years from now? What does it look like 5 years from now? What's the quarter going to look like? When I think about what you guys at Petra do and all of those things and keeping guys focused on the quarter and all of that, I'm not suggesting that we throw it all away, but I am going to tell you, stay focused on what you're going to do today. How are you going to move the needle today? A written daily plan with focus, with bullet points of line items that you're going to accomplish. The idea of scratching them off as the day goes on gives you momentum. It also is endorphin kicking in and helping you in your brain to say, I actually can do things, I can accomplish things, I can get things done. And so what is your daily plan going to be? And I would also recommend, Andy, for the listeners, that if they can assemble that plan the night before, right before they go to bed, 30 minutes before they go to bed, just in writing, put some bullets as to what you're going to accomplish the next day, because science has told us that our subconscious actually works on optimal execution of that daily plan as we're sleeping the night before. We get up better rested because we know where we're headed and what we're going to do. These are the controllables that we have. Now, let's move on. Stop selling. I have been teaching this.
I've never heard you say those words together ever in my life.
I have been teaching this for over 2 decades. Stop selling. Stop selling. Here's the suggestion. Help people to buy. Help them with their needs. Help them with their problems. You see, that's where we want to be. People do not want to be sold. It doesn't work, and no one likes it. And by the way, I'd love to tell you that what I'm saying right now is only applicable because of the coronavirus. I have been doing this in front of audiences for over 2 decades. It is unchanged. But I am going to tell you, when the world is upside down as it is right now, to have a salesperson banging out calls and trying to sell people something in this environment, it doesn't work. I am besieged with people that I have no idea who they are, that are acting as if they know me because they're on LinkedIn and telling me what they can do for me in so many different ways. And by the way, they're like gnats, and they don't go away. They keep coming back every day. Hey, maybe you didn't have time to get to my message. Maybe you did. Like, really, do not pretend that this is effective. That you are absolutely going down a bad place as a salesperson if you're out there beating people up in terms of trying to sell you your products or your services. Here's where I want you to go. I want you to be a resource. I want you to be somebody that can help people with their needs, to help people with their problems. And by the way, let's take it to an absolutely stellar level, which very few salespeople are willing to go to. This is the creme de la creme. I want you to identify the needs and problems of the people that are in your marketplace. And I want you to put yourself as a resource to help them with those needs and problems beyond your product or service. In other words, you may not get a sale out of this, but you will build a relationship that will last you the rest of your life. And so we've got to go and think of things in terms of, how can I go out there and help my marketplace and be a trusted resource, even if they don't buy my stuff right now. And I understand that there's metrics and there's sales numbers that need to be hit and all of those types of things. Those things will take place. They will take place big time. But what we really have to be focused on is first walking through and differentiating ourselves from the people that we're competing with, so to speak. The people that are slamming the phones and trying to sell people things because, hey, we need the revenue, we need the cash, we need all of those types of things. Our prospects are not responsive to that. We can't be selling in an attitude of panic, an attitude of our needs. We have to flip it upside down and think of, how can I be the resource for this person? How can I be the guy to help?
I've got one question around that. I've got a question in the Q&A box. So can you give specific examples of how to reach out to someone you do not know and not sell them or not be selling? So it's a good question. So the first thing that I would tell you is this. Before you reach out to anybody, do your homework.
there's so much that we can learn about a company, about an individual by homework, by going on the internet, going on to the website, going and understanding their business, and going on to LinkedIn, looking at what their profile is looking like, and getting a sense for them. Now, when I reach out to that individual, I want to demonstrate that I've done my homework. I want to show them that I have sensitivity to what their market is like. I want to show them that I've got some time invested in them and in their business to say, hey, here are some things that we're finding that are working with people that are in a similar situation as yours. And if you'd like to talk about it further, I'm here for you in any way, whether it's text or whether it's an email or whether it's a phone call. Here are the methodologies in which you can get a hold of me. View me as your trusted resource, but lead with homework. Lead with an investment in the individual before you're starting to reach out. This is not the time for a salesperson to be hitting 100 dials a day. It is just not right. I'm not a fan of it in good times, let alone in difficult times like we have today. But
hey, Jack, what do you
as a salesperson, hold on, Andy, but as a salesperson, the amount of resources for us to do homework is over the top.
What do you think about, so along those same lines, what do you think about setting up Google alerts so that you, or if I wanted to talk to Jack Daly, I'd put Jack Daly in Google alerts.
Yep.
So it let me know what's happening with you when staying in touch that way.
Absolutely. We should have already been doing that, right?
Sure.
But if we haven't, the Google alerts is so easy, and it just gives us that much more of an advantage. Andy, I don't know whether this is coming through strong enough, but here's what I've learned as a sales guy for over 50 years. I'm 71 years old. Okay, here's what I've learned, that if I care enough about enough people, my sales will take care of themselves. I do a lot of sports analogies. John Wooden, he ended up winning 9 out of 10 years in a row national college basketball championship at UCLA as the coach, and he was famous for sitting on the sidelines on the bench watching the game with the program rolled up in his hands, and he would just watch the play back and forth. There was no emotion. You see a lot of coaches running up and down the court, yelling and screaming and sweating and all that. But by the way, that'd probably be me if I was a coach. But anyway, John Wooden, he just sat there stoically, and the reporters said, "Man, coach, it just doesn't look like you're in the game." And he said, "Look, if the boys haven't learned it by now, it's too late." And so it's all about preparation. And it's all about doing the basics and doing them consistently and doing the homework. And so as a salesperson, I play for the long haul. I don't look at transactions. I don't try to close a guy. I don't even like the word close. What I'm looking for is open up a dialogue, open up a relationship. And by the way, I'm not trying to sell people. I'm stop selling. I am trying genuinely to help somebody. More than 30% of all of the historical leads that came into me as hiring me, I sent elsewhere to other people that I thought were better suited. It's not about me. It's about the customer. It's about your prospect. Dig deep. Put yourself in alignment. Treat them as if they're your brother or your sister, assuming that you like your brother or sister. But treat them like family. Care deeply about them. Go to the end of the earth to help them, and forget about whether you're going to book a sale or bring in a revenue or bring in some cash. I'm telling you, you do that with enough people, your referrals, your trust, all of the things that are necessary to be at the upper echelon of selling takes place. And so the key then is, if you're going to do this selling the way I'm suggesting, there's investment of time involved, there's homework involved, and then item F on your screen, being a proactive listener, a proactive listener. You've got, look, you need to go and make some calls. There are too many people that are hunkered down in their office or in their home, and they're not reaching out. All I'm sensing in that marketplace is the businesses are at the bottom line people. We need to be in touch with people. I am regularly calling people all over the world to just give them an ear. I want them to know I'm here. I may not have a solution right now, but just the fact that I am listening, not selling, just the fact that I'm listening. I'm identifying where it is that they're hurting, and I'm trying to give them some type of faith, some type of action in order to help them. Maybe I can do it. Maybe it's somebody that I can hook up with them, hook them up to, or maybe it's just the fact that they got a guy that just listened for 15 to 30 minutes and they felt terrific just because someone cared enough to go and make a proactive call and not try to sell them something. And so that leads me to the next item, which is empathy, right? Empathic builds trust. At the end of the day, selling is the transfer of trust. People do business with people they trust. This marketplace, at the end of the day, is an opportunity to have a long-term approach, playing for the rebound. And in the interim, we might be hurting with our own sales numbers. We will, in all likelihood, depending upon the business you're in, and you and I were having a private conversation before we got on to the webinar, there are businesses that are being challenged in very different ways than others in terms of just being able to deliver on the promise. Right. Not that there's a sales handicap. It's the whole delivery execution side of the house. But here's the deal. When we do business as a salesperson the way I'm talking about, and we create a long-term approach, we create trust. What we're doing there by being empathic is we're playing for the rebound. Unfortunately, there will people that will not make it. There are businesses that will not make it. When you make it and you have built this level of trust, what you're looking for on the rebound is over the top success. So let's go to the last slide that I have here, which is,
let me ask a question real quick, because it's exactly in line with what you just covered. And I think what you're talking about with proactive listener and empathetic leads directly to it. The question is around, it says, I feel like some of my sales leaders are distracted and not focused. Tips on getting people to be heads down and executing 8 hours a day. We have weekly goals, but do team selling. So the senior most people sometimes seem to be waiting for the marketing and lead generators to set up the meetings to them. And to me, it feels like this is the time for the senior most salespeople to be on the phones directly with their clients or with future clients, building exactly what you just said, being a proactive listener and being empathetic to what's happening, because they're the ones that are most skilled at this. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm known for talking about the 3 sins of sales management, and you can't wear 2 hats and all that. The rules are changed when we are in the crisis as a world. And as a result, to set the example, to be out on the floor as the leader and showing people how to do the calls, the quality of the call, the nature of the call, the empathy on the call, not the whip out trying to get a deal closed, but being empathic with our public. That is a sales leader's job. And setting the example is spot on. And so when the question comes up, like the weekly plan and all of that, I'm going back to the daily list. In this world, a week is a lifetime. 2 weeks ago, the president of the United States was talking about a $2 billion infusion. That was just 10 days ago. And Schumer came in and said, we don't think it's enough. We think 8 billion is. And today, 10 days later, it's 2 trillion. The 10-day change of a magnitude that's never ever been thought possible. This environment requires a change in behavior on the part of the sales leader, and the sales leader needs to dig in and demonstrate by example the things that I've been talking about here on the webinar. So let me roll over to we will next slide. Both in life and in business, I have no doubt that we're going to rebound. And the way that you treat people in this interim period, and that's what it is, this is an interim period. The way that you treat your marketplace during this interim period will dictate whether you've got long-term caring relationships that will serve you well for the rest of your life, or whether you will be a statistic in the loss column. You have to embrace the difficult times that we're in right now with an attitude towards the future. You have to take a daily microscopic approach to the selling aspect of our jobs, but with a understanding that you're playing for the rebound, not playing for today. You're playing for the rebound. And the today actions are all about empathy, care, needs, identification, listening, finding the problems, and seeing if we can be somewhat a solution provider. All I know is this, and I said this to your team last week, Andy. Look, I was in the mortgage business for a long time. I remember when 30-year fixed rates were 17.5%. I mean, in a marketplace today where we're talking 3%, 2%, 17.5%, but there were people during that period of time that said, the world's going to end. And no one will do a loan at 17.5%, but if enough people bail in the marketplace, me, the sales guy, I'm saying, well, wait a second, let me put my head on positively. People have to live somewhere. They don't have the cash to buy it. So they're going to have to borrow it from somebody. And if I'm the only guy with a positive attitude out here saying, hey, I'm here with 17.5% 30-year fixed, they'll come to me. And so I had a windfall of business because I was there to help people get into a home at any price. We watched the marketplace and we started seeing rates come down. Rates got to be 12% 30-year fixed. There were parties in the United States. Does life get any better with a 30-year fixed at 12%? Today, we have people in that sector that if interest rates went to 6%, they'd be looking for a tall building to jump off of. I'm not the tall building jumper. I'm the guy that's saying, hey, there are going to be people that are going to bail. That means more opportunity for me. Look for where the opportunity is. And so I lost great friends when there was something that was called AIDS that we thought in the world was going to wipe out a large population. But we found solutions. And today, you know, you've got Magic Johnson, a successful business guy that when it was discovered he had AIDS, you could have gone fatalistic on that. And I lost friends and I missed them, but we got our arms around the AIDS. We saw the .com crash, and we just saw there were rumors that Silicon Valley would never come back. And we have companies that are worth trillions of dollars up there. The global financial crisis. And now we've got, you know, the coronavirus pandemic. It is horrible. I've never seen it as bad as it is right now. I'm not pretending it doesn't exist. I started out by saying this is an ugly, ugly market. But the key is on the last slide that we have, and put that one up. It's stay focused, daily plans in writing, get someone to hold you accountable to it, put yourself out there, let people hold you accountable, pick people that are going to be tough on you. Secondly, stay healthy. That's where we started with the prescription. You need to budget time to keep your mind and body healthy. And then lastly, people asked me before I got on the webinar today, Andy, how am I doing? And the word that pops up all the time for me is grateful. Where I am in my life and what I have done, what I've seen, with the life that I live, in spite of the stock market crashing, and in spite of all of the negativity that's sitting out here, I have so much to be grateful for. Each of us does. When I think about, and I'm watching out when I'm out there doing my walks, and I'm seeing families that are out walking together. Well, I've never seen as many families out walking together. And they're with their kids, and the kids are on the bike, and the parents are. I'm watching my own kids, and they're playing games with their children instead of on their phone or on their computer. Or I like, man, there's a silver lining in this thing, and we ought to take a moment and be grateful for the positives that are out there and keep our eyes open for it, because that positivity, that gratefulness, it comes back to us. It comes back in spades. I'm a regular donor of blood platelets at the Red Cross, and it's kind of funny. I try to go in on my birthday as one of the days, and the nurse will take your intake information and notice it's your birthday and say, gosh, when you get blood platelets, it's about 3 hours of a commitment. And they'll turn to me and say how generous I am to be in there on my birthday. And I'm like, actually, I'm just being selfish, because this act of helping people, 3 people are going to see tomorrow because I'm in giving blood platelets. I'm so grateful that I'm in good enough health to be able to do this donation today. And that gratefulness spills over into all of the other things that we've been talking about here. And so be focused, be healthy, and most of all, be grateful. But go back and do that daily plan and execute it. Stay in the moment.
That's awesome, man. We got tons of questions. I want to get to those. One of the things that I talked to my team about this morning was what I realized is the times that and you can relate to this because we talked a little bit about it a couple of days ago, but I'd love for you to share your thoughts. The times in my life where I reached the bottom, like things were really, really, really bad, the rebound, so that, we get back up here, I always exceeded where I was prior every time. So every time I got down and I rebounded, I always exceeded prior. And I think in talking to my own team about this, and it sounds a little odd to say it, but if we could look at the experience that we're having right now and say to ourselves that I get to go through this, I get to build resilience, I get to learn from this experience, I get to be stronger on the other side, as opposed to this is happening, I get to experience it, so that, because I know it's going to be better on the other side, better than it was before. So can you speak to that concept a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a really weird example. So I mentioned I've run 95 marathons. Well, the first point I want to make is my first marathon was 46 years old. So for a lot of listeners out there, you've got plenty of time out there. Yeah. So no excuses. But when people ask what my favorite marathon is, it was at the North Pole with the polar circle. It was 20 degrees below zero. It was 20-mile-per-hour winds. It was ice-based, and the first 10K was snow to the knees. And I have pictures that I share with people, and my God, how could that be your favorite? And what thinking while you were out there doing it? And all I could think of when the snow was to my knees, and I was 68 years old at the time, was how grateful I am. How grateful I am to be in health, to be able to be here. How grateful I am to have the time to be here. How grateful I am to have the money to finance being here. I wasn't thinking about any of the ugliness in which it was. And I'm talking about it was ugly to be here. Well, it's ugly to be out there in this market. This is not fun. But I can tell you that, having done the Ironman, which I didn't start an Ironman until I was 58 years old. I didn't know how to swim at that point. I do 15 Ironmans. Every time I've done an Ironman on Ironman Day, It's not hard because it's a day of celebration. What's hard was all of the training for 6 months, every single day that I went through. But when you do the training, what you mentally put yourself into is imagine what it's going to be like the day that I do the race, the exhilaration that I'm going to feel. And I am propelled through the difficult times, through the messiness, to take it to the next level. And it's magical. I'm using the sports analogy. I'm telling you, I could give business analogies. You know, it's neat to hear you introduce me, Andy, and say, hey, this is a guy that built 6 companies, international companies. Oh, man, the resume I could throw at you, Inc. number 10, 10,100% growth, entrepreneur of the year, all that stuff I could throw at you. But you know what we rarely do? We rarely share with people the fact that I had to stand in front of 275 people, and in a single day, because the market changed so dramatically during the global financial crisis, I stood in front of 275 people and let 240 people, my friends, my family, I let them go in one day. And so, but what I said was, we'll batten down the hatches and we'll figure ourselves out and we'll work diligently. We'll get a daily action list. We'll pump each other up. We'll celebrate our daily successes. We'll high five at the end of the day, and we're going to rebuild this thing. Today, that same company is doing more business than it ever did in its heyday, because there is a day after, and we do take it to the next level. Just as you said, we just take it to another level.
Every single time. I want to get to this particular, I want to get some of these questions too, but I got a particular insight here around the feeling of selling right now feels a little bit like, should we really be going out there and talking to people about solutions to challenges? And I think people are feeling like now's not the right time. And I opened this with, we've been playing a lot of defense. There's still more defense to play, and we got to start playing offense. And how do we do that in a way that it doesn't feel wrong right now? So if you could speak to a little bit of, you know.
Yeah. So
listening is important.
So you know, I don't want to run the risk of repeating myself as well, but if you're coming from a place of genuineness, if you're coming from a place where you really care about the person you're calling, and you're being an attuned listener, and you're scraping out what's on their top 3, their top 5 list of challenges, what are they really, really anxious about? If you have a product or service that can help in that way, you're not quote unquote selling anymore. And there's nothing smarmy about this. I mean, you are becoming a resource to help somebody in their place of need. I'm not in the camp of getting salespeople to go out into this marketplace and just try to sell somebody something so that I can have a sale and my company can bring in revenue. And at this moment in time, I'm not that guy. I don't think it plays well, and it wouldn't suit me well. But as a salesperson, Andy, I would tell you that my answer is not to sit on the sideline and wait for this thing to pass. I've got to figure out actions to take in the marketplace. And as long as my actions that I'm taking in the marketplace are pure and in the interest of my community, there should be no hesitancy. In fact, you should be getting up and being excited about the fact that you're going to be a guy that potentially could help somebody today. That's the attitude.
I got an email from Moorings, like the yacht company wanting me to buy a yacht right now. And I'm like, really? What are you doing? Yeah. So quick questions. So how do you handle staff? How do you handle staff that you can't fund past EDD? Do you send out your sentiment to your staff, try and create opportunity, or how much do you think they understand? Employees often think you have more than you have. So this is a little bit off the sales topic, but there's a point of time that is, you just mentioned that you had to stand in front of 200 people and let them go. Talk a little bit about, maybe from experience share, like how should somebody manage this?
Yeah. You know, the reason that I'm stumbling right now is I'm embarrassed to give a portion of this answer. Andy, it's about integrity. As a leader, we should always have been operating with an open communication, integrity-based company. Look, I've had responsibility for thousands and thousands of people in my companies, and the feedback that I've gotten over the years has been that I was a strong leader because of my ongoing commitment to communication and telling it like it really is. And so I have always come from the mindset that people know what the real deal is. People know. And so for a leader to stand in front and try to spin some kind of unreal bullshit at people, it causes the community that you're speaking to lose faith in everything else that you say. And so I'm all about openness. And at the same time that I'm being open, I'm also focused on solutions,
right,
focused on what can be done. I think that this webinar and the way that I've approached it is a reflection of what I'm talking about in answering the question. People tuned in here probably thinking Jack's going to do some kind of pump me up, and I start with businesses are not going to make it, and it's going to be comprehensive, and personal hardships and emotions are going to run rampant, and anxiety. It's like, who is this guy? I thought he was going to teach us how to sell. You can't offer prescriptions to people until you've dealt with them straight. Because if I deal with you straight on this webinar in the beginning and don't pretend that stuff exists and to get on here and say, here's the 17 ways to sell in this marketplace, right, people exit. And so as a leader, we have to have integrity. Once integrity is lost, I don't know how you get it back.
I totally agree with that. Here's a quick sales question. Any specific tips on how you can convey trust in an email, even if you do your homework on the person and or the business?
So I think email is very difficult in this environment. It would not be my first volley. I'm going to try to get people on the phone. Again, I'm going to do homework, but very, very, very difficult in a world in which we're getting hammered with emails for us to somehow differentiate ourselves and lay on some trust. Very difficult. And so if there, let me try and give it to it this way. The better salespeople actually call on less people and write more business. The key is they call on the right people. Too many people calling on too many people that don't deserve to be called on. When you analyze your marketplace where you think that you can provide the most value and where there is the best opportunity. That, again, we only have 168 hours a week. And then we get chopped all the way down to about 40 to 60 hours that are in play for business. When I'm coaching my CEO coach clients, one of the things I want from them is a list of all of their customers ranked by most important to least important. And I call the most important the guy who sent us the most revenue down to the guy who sent us the least. And what we end up finding is that too often in many of those businesses, salespeople are calling on way deep down in the bottom, and their time would be better spending more time at the top. So, and sending a bunch of emails might be looked at as being more productive because you can hit the keyboard and launch that email and cut and paste and send it to a whole lot of people. But compared to that one-on-one phone call But in these times right now, I would opt for the one-on-one phone call and hit the people that are going to be best for what I can bring to the party.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, if email is your means of communication and that's what you do in your industry or your business, there are ways to deliver an email that stand out from someone else. I mean, every single person has a video production suite in their back pocket. Video something and send it to somebody. It doesn't have to, people open those. If you want to convey empathy, you can do that much better in video than you could in writing. So just think about how you get creative. And along those same lines, there's a question around, and I thought you might appreciate this. It says, in the real estate market, specifically in the Southeast, rates are below 4%, and we don't have any problem with selling. How do you navigate closing and selling a deal when you can't even make it to the closing table due to quarantine measures or fear of buyer sellers contracts, killing the whole deal? So this to me is innovation, right? So this is, and when I talk about going from defense to offense, a little bit of offense is, how are you going to pivot? How are you going to do things differently? I saw yesterday where Ford comes to your house now, drops a car off, takes your car, takes it back to the shop, does the work on it, brings it back. You never even see anybody, right? So we need to figure out, how can you get a real estate deal closed without having to be in person? How can
and the person who teed that up is from that industry, but I can tell you that there are a lot of industries on this webinar right now that are faced with a similar type of predicament. And what you're talking about is finding a way to be creative and say, okay, if that road is cut off, how do I find the other road that can get me there? If two people want to do business together, the details will not get in the way. But if two people don't want to do business together, the details aren't going to matter, right? So if you've got a buyer and a seller and they want that deal to happen, the figuring out the details is getting all of the collective parties, and there's a bunch of them in a real estate deal, but getting them all together in a Zoom call, for example, where we chat it all the way through with a mindset that starts with, we're going to get this deal done. Now let's talk about the obstacles and how we take the obstacles out.
And agree on those, right? So you can have a conversation, maybe even just leave the paperwork for signing in a location. I mean, there's ways to figure it out.
Yep.
Businesses are closed. So how do we get people on the phone without emailing first? That's the only option most of us have right now.
Yeah. So there are markets. Started this. That was kind of the first thing that I said. The state of the business. Some businesses are not going to make it. Some salespeople are in roles, Andy, that are not going to make it. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist. If your business is predicated on restaurants right now, they're not there. I don't have an answer for you. I mean, you sending emails to a guy that's gone. Like you need to look for other alternatives. I'm sorry. I started this all out today by saying I don't have all the answers. That particular question, I don't have the answer.
And another way to take that is, in my opinion, would be to look at this as what are we going to learn from this? I said earlier, when we can rebound and come out, we're going to come out at a higher level. And there's a question of how my sales reps reach new clients in times when those people are not in the office. So having those relationships, what can we do differently next time? If they're not going to be in the office, are we collecting cell phone numbers? Are we, how are we going to do that in the future? And how do we change the way we do something when we do return, so that if we face something remotely like this in the future, again, we're more prepared for it. So we can learn from things at the same time.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I don't want to take away from that, because I think that's a good suggestion, Andy. At the same time, we also have to recognize that we're in uncharted waters. We've not been here before, and there are business segments, not a business, but entire segments that are at jeopardy as to whether they make it or not. The entire sector. So if you're a salesperson working within that, I'm going to fall far. I'm going to fall way short of a prescription for success here on this webinar for you. You can't just manufacture sales in a place that's vacated.
I totally agree. And I was talking to some people earlier today, and it's, figuring out where the puck is going, right? So that's a little bit of this conversation is, if a segment or an industry is going to be different in a year, then maybe you need to be retooling for what that difference is going to look like now, and being ready for that.
Yeah, let me personalize this point. My primary business is I'm a professional speaker. That means that I travel by plane, typically 200,000 air miles or more a year, and I'm in front of large groups of people. Both of those things are blown up. They're gone. And quite frankly, I don't perceive them. I'm back at the beginning of my presentation now. I don't perceive them coming back this year. I'm out the whole year. And so I have salespeople that represent me, that are in contact with prospects, and they've said to me, what do I do? And I said, well, we're not trying to get me booked. And so we're going to set up a series of calls to make sure that we're staying in touch with our prospects, customers, and clients, and being a good listener, being empathic, and seeing if there's ways that we can help them irrespective of me going and speaking. And I'm not looking to find a way for me to make $1. I'm not looking for ways to generate revenue. I'm just trying to reach out to the community and see if I can help in some way and be a resource. And you know what? If I can do that with enough people and consistently do it, when the market comes back, and it will, I'll be thought of in a very positive way. And I just need to man up and suffer through a punch in the face in terms of my income. It's gone. Let me be very clear. It's zero.
I understand, Jack. We got, we're in similar industries to a degree, and just like you just said, I feel like it's just, let's just get some information out there. Let's share with some people. Let's try to help as many people as we can during this time period. We're up on time, so I wanted to be respectful of that. You okay if I send you some of these questions? You can answer them offline?
Absolutely, no question. And in fact, my email address is jack@jackdaly.net. And notice on the screen, Daly is D-A-L-Y. So jack@jackdaly.net. I actually look at every one of my emails that come into me and respond. And feel free to anybody that's on this to throw whatever you got at me. I'm good. I'm here to help.
That's awesome. And that's a great resource. So if anybody's on the call and they have direct questions that we either didn't get to or something that comes up after, please email those to Jack. We'll be posting this on the website, and then everybody that registered will get a recap of it. We've got a team of people that took notes from everything you said today. So that'll all be a nice little PDF that goes back out, and the video will be on the website as well. So it will be reshared. And that's just petra.com. Yes, sir.
Andy, I'm being assumptive here, but I'm assuming that you guys are going to continue to be a resource in doing similar things to this.
Correct. Yes. So we've got webinars coming up. I think they're just about every day. Everything's on the website at petracoach.com. People can just grab that. And we're sharing it all over social media. So we've got people lined up at least for the next week, I believe, doing webinars. And then we're doing like town halls. We have guys reading the bill that's going through right now and tearing it apart to see what's applicable and not applicable. We're doing everything we can to narrow all of this information down to digestible chunks. I've been saying to my team, we need to be information and inspiration. Information and inspiration. And we'll kind of, go between those two pieces as we go down this path together.
Yeah. And you and I are Facebook friends, and I'm catching you, it seems like every day with a video where you're just kind of knocking out a 3-4 minute video. And I find those to be really helpful. That would be on my daily list to go and watch Andy Bailey opine on what's going on out there.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's just whatever I'm mad about at the moment. Well, listen,
That's okay. And if you don't want to do that on Facebook with a video, you could always call me and trash me.
all right, brother. Well, listen,
All right.
great to see you. Thanks for being here. If we can do anything for you, please let us know. I know you will. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, bud.
All right. Bye-bye.